This is Evan Carmichael, and before I get this plug in, I just want to say this is the 10th episode of the Block E podcast, so I have finally reached the 10th interview of this journey, and I'm super excited to have Evan Carmichael on. And Evan is an entrepreneur from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, who at just the age of 19 built and sold his first software company and became a venture capitalist at the very old age of 22, which helped raise over $15 million. And not only does Evan have the best name in the world, he also has the biggest entrepreneur YouTube channel with over 1.5 million subscribers and counting. Evan Carmichael, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here. I know I'm not Tony Robbins, but I am super stoked to be chatting with you today.
Thanks for the love, Evan. It's weird saying that. He's saying that because I just did an interview with Tony Robbins. But great to be here, man. And I'm super looking forward to this conversation.
Great. So just to kind of start things off, just to give a bit of backstory on yourself, what or who inspired you to be an entrepreneur at such a young age?
That's an interesting question. I don't know who or what inspired me. I think I always had a piece of me that wanted to do entrepreneurial stuff. When I was 5 was my first little venture where I recruited my 3-year-old little sister. We drew a little painting and sold it to my neighbor for 10 cents and kind of went door to door trying to sell our artwork. And I had baseball cards and lemonade stands and garage sales and that kind of stuff. But I didn't really think I could be an entrepreneur. It wasn't even a thing kind of growing up. My parents had stable, corporate jobs, and that's what I thought I wanted to do. My high school yearbook says, where are you going to be in 10 years? VP at a bank was my answer. I thought I wanted to be a banker, even though I had a bunch of entrepreneurial tendencies. The thing that ended up shifting it for me was I had the opportunity in university to join this startup company versus, get a typical job, my dream job that I thought I wanted versus being owner in this business. And I didn't want to live with regret. But I don't know what triggered it at the beginning. I don't know what 5-year-old Evan, why I wanted to go make those pictures and sell them. Maybe something that's always been in me, but I think I give a lot of credit to my parents who supported me through everything. Even though they are not entrepreneurs, they really enabled me to become one.
Now, it like I'm going through it with a similar situation. Both my parents aren't entrepreneurs as well. So it's a little hard for them to understand what I'm going through. So what was kind of that, what was kind of the way that you were able to explain yourself and explain your mission to your parents in order for them to understand?
Sure. Is this a video? Can the audience see or is this podcast?
Oh, no, they can see you.
Oh, the video. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got on my wall, I've got myself. I'm 9 years old there. My parents above me. They taught me how to be a human being. They taught me how to treat people, not about business, but a lot of it carries over. I never had to explain to them what I was doing. They never questioned me. They were curious about what I was doing, but I never had to defend myself about what I was doing and why. So that was not something I had to face personally. I think, though, if you're having a conversation with your parents, if they don't support you, they don't understand. One, it's understanding that it's coming from a place of love. Like, your parents don't hate you. They want you to succeed, but they're growing up in a different world than you are right now, right? They grew up I think I call your parents are pilgrims. Like they didn't grow up with the phone. They don't understand that you can make a business. Like you can start making more money than them just from using this. So it's just a lack of awareness on their part, but they love you. They want you to be successful. And so the way that I approach it would be, if I had to go through it, is understand that it's coming from a good place and that I need to try it out. Like my filter was I had this opportunity to go work at a high paying job and get my dream job in air quotes, but I needed to try this entrepreneurial thing out just to know. And that I could deal with the failure, but I couldn't deal with not knowing. So you might be dealing with your parents and they're like, you're a podcaster? Like what? Why don't you go become an accountant? Just saying, I need to try this for me. It may not work out. I think if you go in overconfident and say, look, everybody's making money, it makes them even more worried because it looks like you don't understand the downside. This may not work out. Like I may totally flame up and just have to start all over again. I may end up on somebody's couch. I hope that that's your couch because I need to know. I can deal with it not working out, but I can't deal with it not knowing. And coming from it from a vulnerable place, I think is really helpful because parents don't want to see their kids be hurt. And so I think that's the conversation to have if you're not getting support from your parents.
So true. Sometimes there's an element of overprotectiveness as well that a lot of young entrepreneurs who I've talked to as well, they're kind of going through it. There's a lot of 16 and 17-year-olds who have messaged me personally in a lot of different community groups I'm in on Facebook, and they're facing that struggle where their parents don't quite understand, and they're seeing a whole bunch of young kids like themselves drop out of high school and reach into that entrepreneurship. And some kids are lucky enough to have parents that understand and they want to see their kids develop in that sort of way. So it's interesting the fact that you mentioned that they come from a place of care and a place of love, because sometimes that might be a little too overreaching at times for some of these kids, which is a bit of a shame. So going back onto yourself though, what were some of the differences then and challenges from going from software right at the beginning to venture capitalists? Because both of those are kind of different looking at it from an outsider's perspective.
So when I sold my business at 22, I was fortunate that I didn't have to make a decision based off of money. I had made some money now. I sold my business. When I started my business, I struggled and was making $300 a month. When I sold it, I didn't have to worry about it. I went into venture capital because I was curious about it. Once I sold my business, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I invested the past years of my life every day working on this thing, and then suddenly it was gone, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life at the time. And so I said yes to a bunch of everything, just to try it, just to see, just to taste. And one of them was a connection of mine was part of a venture capital firm, and he asked me to come in and join them and see how I might be able to help them. And I said yes, yes to everything, just try and see. And I never had to raise capital for my business. We were in discussions a couple times, but we got bought before we had to raise. And so I was always curious about how money worked. How did investors work? How do you negotiate a deal? I was just curious about it. So I said yes, and I joined them, and I was there for, I think, 2 years, something like that. And it just came out of curiosity. I wanted to learn something. And so instead of sitting on the couch and thinking about learning it, I went out and learned it. Just like if you want to launch a podcast, like do it. Get out and launch a podcast and do your first interview, and you'll learn in the process of doing it. And yes, you can learn sitting on the couch reading, but you're going to learn a lot more. Like you've learned a lot more from episode 10 already than episode 1 and 2, and come back episode 110. I want to be guest 110 on your show. You're going to have learned a lot more in that gap as well. And so that's the approach I take when I want to learn something. Instead of thinking about it and procrastinating on it, I just find an immediate way to get started.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. It's just so interesting because a lot of the time when people just say as advice, just say yes to a lot of different opportunities, because so many people are skeptical a lot of the time of different things that may come up, or like, I don't know if this is for me, or I don't want to take that plunge, or I'm too comfortable right now and I don't want to go into something that's completely new, and what if I screw up? What if people see that I fail? And it's so important for people to just kind of jump into something and just say yes, especially at a young age, especially when you were 22, right?
I was 22 when I sold it,
yeah.
19 when I joined it.
Yeah. And then jumped into venture capitalism just from being able to say yes to an opportunity that you saw come arise, which is just an incredible story, because it's all a part of your own story too, Evan. And that's how you were able to develop into that #1 entrepreneurial YouTube channel today, was just from all those lessons and just saying yes when you were young.
Yeah, I think if you know what you want to do, that's the time to focus and build and grow. Like if you want to build the #1 podcast for entrepreneurs, great. Then when somebody says, hey, do you want to join me at truck driving school? You say no, because you know what you want to do. You have the path. But if you don't know what you do, and like this, you'll often go on these ebbs and flows. Whenever you don't know what to do, the best thing is to say, yeah, I'll join you at truck driver school.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like you go once and you see.
Yeah.
Right? Just like people who decide that pizza is their favorite food before they've tried sushi or burritos or anything else, right? You want to taste it and try. So if you don't have clarity over what you want, you're not going to figure out what you want sitting on the couch. You got to get out there and do. But if you do have clarity over what you want, then that's the time to put the blinders on and focus. I'm building this thing. don't distract me with your other opportunities. Thank you. I love you, but I got to build my thing.
Yeah, 100%. So you've obviously found an untapped niche on YouTube in inspirational entrepreneur videos. When did you start to see rapid growth with your channel?
Oh man, I'm so bad at looking back. I mean, I don't know the date or how long it took, and I mean, you could probably look it up and find out the history and see how long it took. I think for me, it was more once I started YouTube after I already had a successful business. So I left the venture capital world. I started doing my website, sharing the same thing. I was sharing stories of famous entrepreneurs and how they got started. And then I like video content. I learned better by watching video, and YouTube was starting to pick up. I was still relatively new. And I made a couple videos and they sucked and they're still up. You can go back and watch them. Pretty bad. But I liked the process and I thought this could be cool. I never thought it would be this. I never started with the ambition to have a 1.5 million or whatever we're at now subscriber channel. It was fun to do. I liked the process. And as I started making some money on it, as soon as you can figure out what you love doing that also makes you money, then it's like go time. Then it's focus time. Then it's okay. Like, I don't know how long that took me on the YouTube channel. Again, you can go back and see. But as soon as I figured out a way to monetize it and I knew how much I loved doing it, that moved me from the tinkering, okay, I'll try, I'll say yes, I'll throw something up just to see, into, okay, execution mode. And then we started making one video a day and then 2 videos a day and now 3 videos a day. We've done 6,000 videos. 1,000 of them aren't even public. And so that's the mental switch for me. When I find one thing that I think I can drive hard, that's all I do. I drive so hard on that one thing and explode it. And as long as that window of opportunity is still open, because it's a limited window. You know, like that time for you to win is limited. It may be 6 months, it may be 6 years, but it's limited. And so if I spend a year just thinking about it, then I've just already lost X amount of time from me actually being able to do the thing that I want to do. And so as soon as I find the thing and I see the window, then I run as hard as I can, put out as much as I can to maximize that opportunity.
Yeah, you definitely touched on it on my next question. So what were some of the ways that you were able to monetize your own personal brand then?
So at the beginning, it was just advertising. YouTube's a great place to be able to monetize your video content, and you don't have to worry about selling anything because they do the work selling for you. I think it's a 70-30 split. So they take 30%, you keep 70%, something around that. And that's great. All you need to focus on is being a great content producer. As you build and grow, then you can get brand deals. I think my first brand deal, I had 30 or 40,000 subscribers. Then you have, I have 2 books, one with Penguin Random House and one on my own, speaking gigs. I mean, there's a lot of different opportunities. People do merch a lot. It's not a huge part of my business, but it could be for somebody. And it's easier to scale now. Like getting to 40,000 subscribers, one is a lot faster now than before. And 2, the brands are paying attention a lot sooner. When I first got my brand deal at 30, 40,000 subs, it was a new thing. Like, companies weren't doing this kind of thing. Now, every company has an influencer marketing team or person, and they're looking for people. So you can start making those deals a lot sooner. The key, though, is are you producing something that is valuable for a specific niche? Like, what is so different about the content that you're creating? If you want to do a YouTube channel, who are you serving, and what is different about the content that you're putting up? If you are not seen as one of the best, even in a tiny niche, like you could be the best and only have 1,000 subscribers, but it's a super narrow niche. If you're not seen as the best or one of the best, then it's really hard to get the momentum you need.
100%, because that's one of the things that I learned from one of my mentors was you have to focus on being the best at what your niche is. Because if you're not focusing on being the best at that niche and you're trying to do too much, then you don't have that focus. You need to be able to sit down and concentrate on that one thing that you want to do instead of doing all these other projects. That's something that I've had to learn over the last probably almost my whole life. I dabbled in so many different sports, so many different activities as a young kid, and that's what I grew up doing. But I never focused on that one thing, and that's why nothing really, I was never able to capitalize on any of that growing up. So that's 100% true on that. Just concentrate, go 100% on that one thing and become the expert at it. So you talk a lot about your Big 10. So your top 10 people, and I love watching those videos online of top 10 quotes for various different inspirational speakers. Now, but I want to know, what's Evan's top 3 right now?
Number 1 for me is believe. It's my one word. You have to believe in yourself. You got to believe that your idea can work, especially as an entrepreneur. You're doing something new because nobody's done it before. You know, if you had absolute certainty, then it's only because it's already happened. And so there has to be a degree of belief in yourself to go off and do anything great when your parents don't tell you can do it, and your friends and your family, and getting out of your current environment. So believe is definitely number 1 for me. 2, I would say, from studying all of these successful people and my own experience, you have to do the thing that you love. Whether you call it follow your passion or follow your bliss or lots of different ways of saying it, but you have to enjoy the work. Like, if you did not enjoy interviewing people, then don't do this, right? And maybe you test 10 out and then you say, you know what, like, this sucks. I hate Evan Carmichael. That was the worst interview of all time. I never want to see him again. You know, and I don't want to do this. Awesome. But you tried, right? And so you have to enjoy the process. I love making videos. As much as I love seeing the results and the impact, I love the process of making the videos. And a quote that comes to mind is Martin Luther King, who just won the Nobel Peace Prize. And he said, I'm on top of this mountaintop. I'm on top of this glorious mountaintop, because he's hanging out with kings and queens and all these people. But the valley calls to me. Like, he wants to go back to the streets. He wants to go back and fight for his cause again. He wants to go back and, like, get hit in the face with pies and being, you know, urinated on and all this stuff, right? It's like he wanted to go back into the valley. And so that's what I see it as. It's great to have the awards, and I got the play buttons and whatever behind me, but it's like, I like making the content. The day that I stop liking making YouTube videos, I'm not going to do it anymore. So you have to do the thing, the process that you enjoy doing. And if I had to pick a third one, I would say I would try to engineer your environment, your habits, routine. It's super important. I don't wake up every day feeling like, yes, this day's amazing. I'm going to go and crush my day. It's not how I wake up, and I'm tired, and I'm like wiping crust out of my eyes. And I wake up like everybody else. The difference is the habits. So we've all felt inspired at some point. You know, whether it's watching the videos or reading a book or meeting somebody, you know what boldness and courageousness feels like. It's just not consistent. You might be bold today, or maybe your viewers or listeners, after seeing this, they get inspired, but then the next day you're back to 0. And that's the problem, is you stay at 0. And so it's really hard to build something great when you have 1 day on and 8 days off, and then 1 day on and 20 days off. And that's what a lot of entrepreneurs go through, because it's so lonely. So designing a morning routine that fills you with boldness and courageousness, whatever that looks like for you. So if it's watching, for me, it's videos. Like, I make my videos selfishly for myself. I want to be around Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and these people. I want to be around them. For you, it might be something totally different. For your viewers, it might be meditating in the sun with your cat. Awesome. Like, whatever the thing is that gets you feeling bold and courageous, do that every single morning. It'll make a tremendous impact on your life. So true. And you touched on it a little bit. If you had to start over again, because I know we only have a few more minutes, if you know that if you had to start over again today at 19, as a young and hungry kid who is just finishing high school, what advice would you give that person or yourself at that time who was in that similar position? I would, one, try to find out what I love to do that might be a business. If I'm thinking like I want to be an entrepreneur, one, what is the business that I want to start if I don't have a clear sense already? And I'd be saying yes to everything. Like, every weekend I'd be trying something new, saying yes, helping friends, helping family out, anything, going to meet up. Like, I'd be, like you said, dabbling. I'd be dabbling in everything. I'd spend 6 months to a year of just dabbling until I find the thing that I want to go back and do again. Not that like when you're going out on a date, you want to marry that girl right away, but I want to have a second date until you find the thing that you want to have a second date with. And then when I found that, I try to find a way to go harder on it. And if I'm in school, I probably don't want to leave school yet unless I absolutely know that I can never go to school and I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to leverage my school to try to help me get where I want to go. So I want to use the school resources. I want to use the school publications. I want to use the school alumni network. I want to use as professors. I want to use everything at my disposal to help me build my business on the back of my school education. And then I still have a great backup plan if my business doesn't work out.
And lastly, before we wrap things up, I ask this with all of my guests. What is your favorite animal and why?
The thing that comes to mind is Teemo. I don't know why. It's not an animal. He's a character in League of Legends. Yeah. I'm not a great player. I'm like silver 3 or 4. But what is he's a yordle. Did you play League of Legends?
No,
you know
not at all. I have no idea. I'm just like, oh, you seem really excited about League of Legends. So.
League of Legends. Well, it's a computer game. You play 5-on-5. You gotta destroy the enemy kind of tower thing. You get to pick different characters. And Teemo is one of the most hated characters in the game, but I like playing him. And he's a yordle, so it's a made up animal. So I'm gonna go with yordle as my favorite.
Interesting. I've never had a computer character as one of the animals, but interesting. So. Just to wrap things up with Evan Carmichael, I'm going to be linking both of his books in the description of his video. You see them behind him. It's the top 10 rules for success and your one word. Both of them are available on Amazon. Are they also available on your website too?
Yeah, you can find them on the website. I want to know, what is your favorite top 10 video that we've done? Where should people start? If they're going to go to the YouTube channel, they say, Evan's favorite. Well,
yeah, exactly.
The host Evan's favorite top 10 video. The one you should start with is
mine. It wasn't necessarily a top 10 video that you did for this one, even though you've made probably about 4 to 6, I think, top 10s with this gentleman. But my first one that made me begin my entrepreneurial journey, even though he didn't start out first as an entrepreneur, is Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson, yeah. So Jordan Peterson, also from Toronto as well. I know he's living in Toronto, originally from Alberta. He kind of started that journey for myself when I stumbled on his videos probably about early 2015, 2014. It was about a year or so before he started to get viral because he always posted his lectures online. And he kind of lit that flame under me to be able to go after what I wanted, and I was always into psychology, and he just kind of spoke to me to kind of go after and become that monster. And that's one of the things that stuck to me, was to get that untapped monster from within, but be able to tame it and use it for good. And that's where and that was the number one thing that I got from him, from all the hours I listened to him on Joe Rogan, all the videos that I got to see from his lectures. It was just that monster bit that really stuck with me, and that's what I want to show other young entrepreneurs as well, to find that untapped monster within and go out and conquer the world.
Cool. Well, Jordan Peterson. Quick story. The first time we did a top 10 on him, I didn't know who he was. He was just kind of working his way up. I think it's great. Like, I don't know a lot about the people when we first profiled. So I dived deeper into his world. And then we made the video, and my microphone wasn't working. I usually use a clip mic when I'm filming. And the camera that was filming me was like halfway across this huge room. And we realized afterwards that the audio was trash. And they said, well, what do you want to do? It's like, no, we're going to still post it because it's not perfect, but I want to have that lesson too. Like, even if it's not perfect, you still got to post it. You still got to put it up. It's like, we make mistakes too. And so many of the comments are like, Evan, you sound like you're in a toilet. Evan, can you spend $40 on a microphone? And so that's my memory of the Jordan Peterson top 10 rules #1. But it's a great, don't listen for me because it sounds garbage, but his message.
Yeah, but that's the whole point of social media now, is that sometimes you might want to break that trend of a good microphone or something like that when someone's used to it, because then they're going to comment on it. Then more people are going to end up getting reached with the video at the end of the day, because people are just going to be talking about it, commenting on it and stuff like that. So it's actually kind of like one of those little subliminal things that will help actually like grow the reach of a video. So Evan, thank you so much. I know that you gave me so much of your time. I had to follow Tony Robbins, which I don't think I've ever even imagined in my life that I would even do after.
No. You didn't follow Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins opened for you.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe someday we can make that a reality. But thank you so much, Evan. The only downfall that I have with Evan is that he's from Toronto, so he must be a Leafs fan. I'm a Canucks fan over on this end. So thank you so much, Evan, and I appreciate this conversation right now. So I just lost connection with Evan, but that's okay. My internet went down, of course, at 10:30. So I want to just thank Evan once again for this interview. And please hit that subscribe button if you found this interview helpful at all. Please like it, comment what your favorite part was of the interview. And I will see you in the next video.